Have you been feeling like you've been swimming through concrete lately? Low energy, poor sleep, irritable, stressed, and hormones all over the place? You know what? It might not be burnout. It might be magnesium. Nearly 50% of all Americans don't get enough magnesium. And some research suggests the number may be even higher for women due to stress, hormonal shifts, pregnancy, and nutrient depletion. Magnesium plays a role in over 300 biochemical reactions in the body, including sleep regulation, muscle relaxation, nervous system supports, mood balance, and hormone health. So if you're feeling anxious, wired but tired, struggling with PMS, headaches, or restless sleep, this episode might be one you didn't know you needed. Today on Go Slow to Go Fast, I'm joined by Natalie Gerardo. She's the founder of Rooted In and an expert in all things magnesium. And we're unpacking how this powerful mineral could be the missing piece to your wellness routine. Let's get into it. Natalie, I just want to thank you for coming on the Go Slow to Go Fast podcast and agreeing to sit down with me and tell us all about magnesium. But before we get started, can you just give our listeners and viewers a little insight into how you're going slow to go fast these days?
Absolutely. And it's my pleasure to be on here. I can't wait. I'm so excited to talk about my favorite topic. But one of the things that I've been doing lately is the most cliched thing that they say will always work. And most of us are like, yeah, sure, whatever. And it's just waking up early. There's something about that magical quiet before the sun rises, everybody else is asleep, and it allows me to really get centered and grounded and really prepare for my day in an intentional way. And I know everybody says, get up earlier, but my goodness, it really does work.
It does. And it gives you that space to breathe and take your time. I know when I get up earlier, I feel better, even though I may not want to. My body may say, no, I don't really want to do this today.
Yes,
I'm usually happier when I choose to do that.
absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So knowing that you're an early riser and you like to start your day early, I'm just fascinated to hear more about how you got into using magnesium in your daily practice. So can you just give the listeners and the viewers a little bit of background on how you came to be in the space where you are now?
Absolutely. It sometimes feels like the greatest discoveries happen when you're going through a really hard time in your life, right? When you've got this big, audacious problem to solve, that's when sometimes the best things happen. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was going through a period of my life where I was just dealing with unconquerable stress that really turned into anxiety and it turned into panic attacks and it turned into an inability to sleep. I think I was getting about 2 hours of interrupted sleep a night. It was really, really awful. And it started to just tumble down and start to affect every other aspect of my life. My mood, my energy, the way I was showing up for my family, my ability to drive and work and even just go to the grocery store, everything was really impacted. So I did what everybody tells you to do. And I went off to my doctor and said, hey, doc, fix me up. There's something going on, right? And she was so gracious enough to offer me every test she could possibly think of. She sent me to numerous specialists. They took blood and all sorts of different tests. And when it was all said and done, she sat me down with all of my results and said, you're perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. She said, your blood work is absolutely in range. You're normal. And then she went on to tell me about how this is what happens when a woman turns a certain age and this is expected. And it was the best, worst news that anybody could possibly give me, right? Like, yay,
Mhm.
you're healthy, but oh my goodness, you feel awful and it's going to stay that way forever. So
Right.
I got really, really down on myself about the whole situation, but I wouldn't give up. I decided that her version of normal didn't fit my version of normal. And so I kept searching and learning and diving deep into the research to try and figure out what was going on. And through a wild turn of events, I discovered magnesium. And I was taking a magnesium pill, but it just wasn't working as well as I wanted it to. And when I started using magnesium on my skin, that's when everything changed. I went from sleeping 2 hours a night to sleeping 6 hours a night just within the first week. And so I knew I was onto something. The anxiety started to go away, panic attacks completely gone. And I thought, why aren't we talking about magnesium? Why isn't this being brought up in every single office across America? Why isn't Oprah talking about it, right? Like everybody should be talking about magnesium. And I made it my mission to get magnesium into the hands of every single person who struggled like I did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the listeners and viewers out there, but I've been where you have just explained, like you go to your doctor, you know something's wrong, but they can't pinpoint it, and you're hitting all the levels that they have in their metrics that say you should be fine. You're just going through a change. And is that perimenopause? Is it menopause? Is it something else? Who knows? But I think that when they say you are fine and you're not, then that tells you got to keep looking. And so I'm so glad that you did and that you're here today to share your story because I'm sure there's others like us out there.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's really common. Like I think
Yeah.
our stories are, similar for a reason. It's something that
Mhm.
happens on a regular basis where your numbers are fine, but you don't feel fine. And we
Mhm.
really have to we can't ignore that feeling. We really need to be aware, pay attention, and keep pushing until we get answers.
Yeah. So you said that once you started putting magnesium on your skin and having the absorption that way, you started sleeping better. What were some of your other symptoms for people out there that might, be going through something similar?
Yeah, so my issue with sleep was I was able to really fall asleep, but I couldn't stay that way. Sleep would
Mhm.
come in 20, 30-minute chunks. And I'd wake up and my mind would be racing. I just couldn't I couldn't hit that off switch. It just would not my mind and body would not shut off.
Mm.
And so that was a huge, huge red flag for me that I know everything's fine, but my mind, we should all be able to turn off at nighttime, right?
Yes.
We should all be able to recover and rest so that we can get our next day could be so much better. And of course, when you
Yeah.
don't sleep at night, you're tired all day long. It felt like
Mhm.
I was swimming in concrete, like I had
Mm.
heavy weights attached to my arms and legs all day long. And of
Mm.
course, that makes you moody and irritable. Your brain gets foggy. Every other domino starts to kind of fall down.
Yeah.
I noticed that I was really struggling to lose weight because I was always hungry, looking for sugar and caffeine to kind of keep
Mhm.
me going throughout the day. And then on top of that, my adrenaline would spike all the time. I was always anxious. I always felt like a lion was chasing me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so it was that
Yeah.
that cortisol going up and down, kind of just really wrecking my days, and then wrecking my nights as well. So there was really no freedom from that feeling.
Mm. So just adding one thing into your routine, magnesium, made such a huge difference.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to say that I was doing everything else right. So,
Mm.
I was eating a clean, healthy, organic diet. I was exercising regularly, moving my body, trying to cut
Mhm.
stress whenever I could. Of course, as a mom and an employee, you can't really do that, right? So, you could
Right.
only do the best that you can. So, I was trying to cut stress, trying to do everything, but I still wasn't getting the results that I needed. And so I
Mm.
always like to preface that because I'm a big believer that you cannot supplement your way out of a bad diet. We can't drink a 12 pack of beer and three pizzas and french fries and everything else and then expect to feel wonderful when we take a supplement. It simply doesn't work.
Yeah. No. It may have worked in our 20s, but no longer.
I agree.
Your body catches up with you and all your habits. So I've been there. I understand. But I can't say that I've ever thought about magnesium in my routine, except for there were a couple of times where when we had our pre-chat that you shared how you can build it into your lifestyle. And I thought, oh, okay, I have done that. I just didn't realize it. So can you share some of the ways that people, if they want to explore adding magnesium into their process, into their daily habits, how could they go about doing that?
Absolutely. So, magnesium is a mineral. It's not a drug, right? So, it's not something you could become dependent or addicted to. It
Hmm.
actually powers over 700 different reactions in our body.
Mm.
So, it powers our nervous system, our muscles, our heart rate, our blood sugar, our cholesterol. All of that is dependent on magnesium. So, it's present in every single one of our trillions of cells. Without it,
Mm.
we would not live anymore. Game over, everything would stop. It is
Mm.
that vital to the functioning of our body. So, unfortunately, about 70% of the population is not getting enough magnesium in their diet every single day. So, when we think about that, that's 7 out of 10 people
Mm.
whose bodies are not functioning the way it's supposed to. Like, that's huge. That's huge. But it also explains why so many of us deal with chronic headaches, muscle cramps, restless legs, difficulty sleeping, like I did, anxious thoughts, depression, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. All of that is dependent on magnesium. And the beautiful thing is, when we get more magnesium into our body starts to function the way it's supposed to. When that 70%, those 7 out of 10 people finally get that magnesium into their diet and into their life, they often say, "Oh my goodness, I feel brand new. I feel like I did when I was 20," because your body is running the way it's intended to run. I like to compare it to like trying to drive a car with the wrong gas type in it or not enough gas. It's going to start to conk out after a while, right? We've got to fuel our body with the fuel that it needs in order to function. So there's lots of different ways that we can get magnesium into our bodies. It's not like this super hard, complicated thing like a lot of other supplements are. There's three main ways we can eat our magnesium, right? We can get those foods that are rich in all those beautiful minerals. We can wear our magnesium by soaking in magnesium baths or using it as a topical. And then we can always supplement if it's needed. So those are the three easy main ways that we can get magnesium into our bodies.
So if I'm going to, and I'm already planning, you can see I have a turtleneck on and I have a cup of tea. I'm like freezing today. So I'm planning on having a bath after we get off this interview and conclude our discussion. I mean, how long does a magnesium bath last? Or a salt bath?
Yeah. So you want to soak, if you're going to do a magnesium bath, there's two
Hmm.
ways we can do it. We can use Epsom salt. It's grandma's old remedy when you were feeling under the weather or you sprained your ankle. Soak it in Epsom salt. Epsom salt
Hmm.
is magnesium sulfate. And the
Hmm.
beautiful thing about Epsom salt is it's available just about everywhere, right? Like you can get
Yep.
it at the dollar store now. So
Yeah.
relatively affordable, easily accessible, 2 cups in your bath. And if
Mm.
you really want to spice it up a little bit, throw 1 cup of baking soda in there. The baking soda, the bicarbonate, binds to the magnesium sulfate and really gets it into your cells a lot
Mm.
faster.
Mm.
So it's a great way to kind of supercharge your
Okay.
bath. So 2 cups Epsom salt, 1 cup of baking soda, or you could do magnesium chloride flakes. And these are typically sold in health food stores. I've seen it now in some pharmacies as well, and you can also find it on Amazon, that type of thing. Magnesium
Hmm.
chloride is just hyper concentrated magnesium. It is, that's what I started using when I first started using magnesium on my skin, and it is incredibly powerful. You could throw
Mm.
1 cup of that into your bath and soak for 20 minutes. So
Okay.
that's how we kind of get it into our bath water. We need at least 20 minutes, and we need warm water, not hot. Hot
Mm.
is going to make us sweat, and we don't want to sweat. We don't want to push everything out. We want to pull stuff in.
Okay.
So warm water will open up your pores. And you'll soak for 20 minutes. It's a beautiful way to get magnesium into your system.
Mhm.
Aim to do that 2 to 3 times a week. And if you don't have a bathtub that's, glorious for soaking in, you could always soak your feet. So if you're at work, if you're watching TV, put that mixture in a basin, soak your feet in it, and get those incredible benefits as well. So
Mm.
it really is a wonderful way to top up those magnesium levels and top up that storage that we have in our body.
I love that because not all of us have bathtubs and not everybody likes to take a bath, but there are ways you can work around that. So that's great. Okay. So you can use a topical, you can take a bath in the different ways that you've shared. And then is there any particular like amount you would say if someone wanted to consume an oral supplement as well?
Yeah, the RDA is the recommended daily amount that we're supposed to be getting every day, right? And
Mhm.
the RDA is 350 to 400 milligrams a day. However,
Mhm.
there's a little fine print and an asterisk there, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
RDA was created to help healthy people stay healthy. So if you're
Mhm.
part of the 70% that has not been getting enough magnesium every day for the last 5, 10 years, that amount is not going to be enough to restore your magnesium and get you back up to baseline. It's
Okay.
likely for a period of time, you're going to have to take more than that. Now, I
Mm.
say this, of course, with the asterisk that speak to your medical provider, make sure it's the right thing for you to do for your
Mhm.
personal health. But
Yes.
generally speaking, 350 to 400 is the safe normal dose for people to take. But if you are deficient and dealing with any of those number of symptoms that I mentioned earlier, then it's likely that you're going to need more than the RDA for a few, maybe weeks or months until you top up enough.
Mhm. And I again, I'm not a medical provider either. And I do urge everyone to check in with whomever you seek medical attention from, but and guidance. But doesn't our body get rid of any excess? Like, say we are taking extra because we have consulted with our doctor or whomever, and then we see that, we're feeling great. If we don't need as much anymore, our body's going to get rid of that anyway, naturally, most likely.
Yes, it will. It's our built-in safety mechanism, right?
Mhm.
So if we take too much magnesium all at one time, our body is going to pretty quickly send us to the bathroom, right? And we'll get
Mhm.
rid of anything that we don't use. Now
Yeah.
it's not I mean, it's unpleasant, but it's
Yeah.
not going to do you any long-term harm.
Right.
It's
Right.
your body telling you you've had too much. One thing I
Yes.
always tell people if they choose to start supplementing is to
Mhm.
break up those supplements throughout the day. If your magnesium comes in 2 pills for a dosage, take one in the morning and one at night. That way you're
Mhm.
giving your body adequate time to absorb it, and it allows you not it kind of prevents that laxative effect that can happen if you take too
Yeah.
much.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, if you've ever been to the beach and you've been, at the beach all day, you kind of have that feeling of like having too much salt water in your system and you could get a little, woozy, queasy, whatever, what have you. You don't want to drink salt water. I've told my boys what might happen if you do too much of that. So, yeah, it makes sense that your body's going to naturally take care of that for you. It sounds like it could be a pretty quick turnaround, like, you'll start feeling the benefits pretty quickly.
Absolutely. When people I find that when people take magnesium, they feel it within that first week. It's
Mm,
significant.
mm,
It's because your body needs it. It's like
mhm,
you're quenching a thirst in your body. So when you finally
mm,
get it, your body's like screaming hooray, you know? So most people find that they feel it rather quickly.
mm,
And they continue to feel those benefits for quite a long time. So
mm,
definitely something that's very impactful. I'm not a huge fan of supplementing. Like I don't supplement
mhm,
of things at all. I don't have like a bunch of pills I take every single day. But I really truly believe that magnesium is something that should be in everybody's routine simply because it is so foundational. It is so
mhm,
relatively cheap. And like you said, there's really not a lot of chance of having side effects from taking it. So it's
yeah.
very risk free to try.
Do you find that you get any kind of frequently asked questions that are kind of like a misconception from people when they're first starting out their journey in researching?
Yes. One of the biggest questions that I get is, well, I went to the doctor. They told me my magnesium's fine. The blood work said it's perfectly fine, which is very similar, echoing the situation that I went through myself. And there's
Yes.
one key reason for that. So when it comes to magnesium, about 60% of our body's magnesium is stored in our bones. The other 40%, approximately 40%, is in our muscles, tissues, and organs, leaving less than 1% in your blood. So
Mm,
when a doctor runs a blood test, they're only looking at less than 1% of your body's overall magnesium status. So if that says, oh, yeah, you're perfectly fine, your blood is within range, it doesn't account for the chronic deficiency that's happening throughout the rest of the 99% of your body. So you
mm.
can be deficient for years before it'll ever show up on a blood test.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So then, if your medical provider may not be able to detect what your true levels are, what's a good way to find that out?
So the National Institute of Health says that we should be going based off of our symptoms. They agree
Mm,
that there really isn't accessible testing for this. They say go based off of your symptoms. If you've got those symptoms of magnesium deficiency, then you start taking magnesium and those symptoms go away. You've just confirmed that you were deficient. So keep on
okay.
taking it.
Okay. That's good to know. Wow. Okay. So beyond the physical feeling of increasing your levels of energy and being able to sleep, have you seen any links between taking magnesium and increasing your overall mental well being as well?
Yes, there are some incredibly amazing studies that have linked low magnesium to depression and
Mm,
anxiety. And we've also seen some new studies that have just come out in the last couple years linking low magnesium to ADHD, especially in children. So those studies are really, really interesting. The amount of children who are incredibly low in magnesium that are really exhibiting these strong ADHD symptoms. And when they provide them adequate magnesium, they see that the symptoms start to go away. Now, By no means am I saying that magnesium is a cure for things like ADHD or depression, but I am saying that it does play a major role, and it's something that if you are dealing with these, that you may want to look into and maybe navigate through that with your healthcare provider.
That definitely gives, I think, some listeners out there something to think about. If you feel like you've tried to rule out so many things when you're working with your different providers, especially for your children, it might be something to think about, to explore. I mean, it's a natural mineral, so it's something that you could try and see if there's a difference.
Absolutely. And we know if we look at the foods that are high in magnesium, those are your green leafy vegetables, your nuts and your seeds. And as a mom of two children myself, those are the hardest foods to get into
Mhm.
my children. Those are the foods that they will fight me, or at least when they were little, that they
Yeah.
would fight me on. And so
Yeah.
we do see that statistically children tend to be at risk for low magnesium because they're not eating those foods like adults typically are.
Right. I've learned, at least with my three, my husband doesn't eat vegetables. He takes supplements, but at least he takes supplements. My boys will try something if it's on my plate. It's kind of like that age old, like when they're toddlers, they'll try to take something off your plate. They still try that now, and they're 11 now. And that seems to be the way I can get them to try something, especially if I'm like, wow, this is really good. Then they'll be like, I want to try that. But they're not up for me putting that on their plate right away. But what might be some foods besides the green leafy, like kale and spinach and stuff that I'm going to eat because I like that. But like, are there particular nuts and seeds that you would suggest?
Yes, pumpkin seeds are
Mm,
really a wonderful source of magnesium as
okay.
well as zinc.
Okay.
And chia seeds, if they like chia pudding, you could make a
Mm-hmm.
chia pudding. I like to, when my kids were little, I would sneak spinach into their smoothies and call it a Hulk
Yes.
smoothie, that type of
Yes.
thing. And then coconut water.
Mm,
Coconut water is a great source of magnesium plus potassium. I like it. I consider coconut water our all natural Gatorade kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
And then dark
Yes.
chocolate. Dark chocolate is
Okay.
also a fabulous source of magnesium. So making, muffins with some pumpkin seeds and dark chocolate is a great source of magnesium. The only
Mm,
thing is that while those foods are all great sources of magnesium, and the truth is, we always try and get our vitamins and minerals from food first. We also have to
mm-hmm.
be aware that you need a lot of it in order for it to make a difference. So to
Yeah.
get that RDA for magnesium, to get that like 300 to 350, you would have to eat 10 cups of raw spinach every day. So like
Okay.
that's how much we really, really need in order to get that magnesium. And so many of us we're just not eating that much.
No. I mean, yeah, I'd be lucky if I got them to have a smoothie once a day, and they don't mind that, but, spinach smoothie every day is a lot of spinach, however, still. So, that would be like sprinkles on a cupcake, like, that's even better, but you wanna get the meat of what you're trying to supplement out of something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where those Epsom salt baths can be really come in handy, especially when they're young, soaking in a tub a couple times a week or even doing a foot soak. Anything like that can be very, very effective, especially for children who are too young to really supplement.
Mhm.
They can't swallow pills, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good to know. Okay. So, what might be another maybe frequently asked question or something that comes up when you speak with people about magnesium intake?
What really trips people up when it comes to magnesium is what type of magnesium should they be taking? Because what happens
Mhm.
is they'll hear like a podcast like this, or they'll see a TikTok video and they rush out to the store to go buy magnesium and they see this like giant supplement aisle, right? And there's like
Mhm.
bazillion different types of magnesium and they all claim to be the best type. And then there's supplements that have 7 forms in one, and that's the best type. And that is probably the number one question I get, like, which one is the best type to take? And the
Mhm.
hard answer is there is no best one to take. There are over 14 different forms of magnesium. Some of them will absorb better than others, right?
Mm.
So if at the very least, the one takeaway that people can take from this is while you're searching for that supplement, try to avoid magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is the cheapest, most readily available, most often prescribed by healthcare practitioners. And
Mm.
unfortunately, that form only absorbs at a rate of 4%, which means the other 96% is going to have you in the bathroom because it's going to go right through your system. So when
Yeah.
people take magnesium and they're like, well, I took it, but it really gave me tummy problems. Well, it's probably the type that you took. You likely took magnesium oxide. And if you switch to another form, you're going to have much better results.
Okay. So avoid magnesium oxide when you can
Yeah.
and consider taking a bath a few times a week using your Epsom salts. Okay.
Absolutely.
All
And then, of course,
right.
you can always use a topical. You can always use, there's lotions, gels, sprays, all that are super saturated with magnesium chloride. And all of those are a great way to kind of take that bath feeling with you all day long.
Okay. And I haven't really explored this very much. I did have a gentleman by the name of James come on, James Garland, and we spoke about labels and supplements and just overall what to look for and understanding the RDA and how all that came to be. So we know just like a little bit about that right now. But as people want to look into those topicals, would you say the same applies? Do you see a lot of magnesium oxide in those topicals? And to really avoid that, you should be okay otherwise?
Well, when it comes to topicals, the only forms that are going to really penetrate through the skin and get into your bloodstream are going to be that magnesium sulfate from Epsom salts or
Hmm.
magnesium chloride. And of the
Okay.
two, magnesium chloride is significantly more powerful. So you want to look for magnesium chloride as the first or second ingredient in the topical that you're using.
Okay.
So that'll at least tell you that there's a good amount of it in that topical. An incredible study was done. I want to say it was 2017 that found that using 500 milligrams of magnesium chloride on your skin twice a day could effectively raise your magnesium levels by 59% in about
Mm,
12 weeks. So, to compare, if you were to take a pill or a powder, it could take as much as 9 to 24 months to get that same result. So, we're seeing that topical works and it works really well without those side effects. Fortunately, topicals are not regulated by the FDA.
mm,
So, when somebody sells you a magnesium cream or gel or spray, because it's not regulated, they don't have to tell you how much magnesium is actually in there. So you want to make sure
okay.
that you're working with a transparent company that's telling you exactly how much magnesium is in each and every dose of it and that you really, really can trust.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. And it's something where you have to just, spend a little time researching and educating yourself on what you want to explore. And like you said, it's not regulated. So we do have to do our due diligence. And it's helpful when we hear podcasts like this just to speak with the experts. So thank you. I appreciate you just walking us through that. Any other, big questions that come up that you feel like people need a little help navigating?
Mostly people ask, but how do I get more magnesium? What do I do? What do I do?
Mm,
And honestly, the three-step approach is eat your magnesium every chance you can. So get those greens
mhm.
in your diet whenever you can. Get it on your skin. If at the very least you're just soaking once a week, you're doing something better than you were before. If now you're using a magnesium lotion on top of that, even better. So get it on your skin. And then lastly, supplement if necessary. Make sure that you're using a supplement that does not include that magnesium oxide, and
Mhm.
you're gonna be in good shape. You're gonna be ahead of 99% of people out there.
Yeah, and then, I think I would also say, if I'm trying a couple of different things, adding a few things into my routine that are new, it's probably helpful to write that down and track it somehow, like keeping track of what you're doing from day to day, week to week. So then you can see, if you want to set it up on a Sunday or a Monday or whatever day of the week and just kind of reflect and see, last week I felt this way and now I'm trying X, Y, and Z. And now I'm feeling this way a week later. Is it better? Is it worse? Is it the same? And just keeping track of that. Do you have any kind of tools that you offer or any other ideas that might be helpful?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely what you're saying is just brilliant. Just track how you feel, see,
Hmm.
am I feeling better? I tried this, am I feeling better? And that goes for not just magnesium, but anything that
Sure.
you implement, you wanna really track your symptoms.
Hmm.
Another thing to really understand with magnesium is that we do store it in our bodies. Like I said before, it's in our bones, our tissues, and organs. But there are
Hmm.
certain things that we do that could really leach that storage, that can really pull it out of our system. And the first thing is sugar. So for every
Mm.
one molecule of sugar that we consume, it takes 54 molecules of magnesium to balance that out. So the more sugar you eat, the quicker you're going to start to feel those symptoms. That's why so many people, they'll start to eat sugar and then they start to feel bad. One of the reasons is it's pulling that magnesium out of your system. Same thing with
Mm.
alcohol and caffeine. They're diuretics. So that magnesium's going to come right through your system the more alcohol and the more caffeine you consume. So if you're going through a
Okay.
period of time where you're going to be eating and drinking foods that you don't normally do, this happens to me every year around the holidays, Christmas
Mhm.
cookies and all these wonderful foods. I know that my magnesium demands are going to increase during the holidays. So if I was typically aiming to get 4 to 500 milligrams a day, I might be going for 6 during that time just because I need to offset all the foods and sugar that I'm eating.
That's a great reminder because I'm one of those people that can no longer consume alcohol. Like these days, I'm just having to take it out of my diet because I just don't feel good when I do. So there might be something to that I'm going to have to look into a little bit more because I am a caffeine person. So I need to counteract that. Thank you. That's good to know.
Absolutely.
And there's just so much, with the holidays. We're recording this in the middle of September, but it may be airing a little bit later in the year. But I think it would be just a helpful reminder any time of the year, be thinking about what you're consuming. And if it's different than your normal routine, that might be something to look at as far as sugar
Absolutely. You
and
might need
caffeine.
yeah, you might need a little more nourishment during those holidays.
Hmm.
And same thing goes for stress. So the more that we are stressed out, the more magnesium we're going to need to help us
Yeah.
counterbalance that stress, right? Magnesium
Right.
really helps lower our cortisol levels. So if the
Mm.
higher our cortisol levels are, the more magnesium we're going to need to bring it down. The problem is when we're low in magnesium, it makes us feel more stressed. So we've got
Mm.
vicious cycle of stress being high, magnesium being low, stress getting worse, magnesium getting worse. And so a
Hmm.
great way to kind of break that cycle is to just make sure you're getting enough magnesium during really stressful times of your life. Again, the holidays can really, really be stressful.
Yes. Or if you are a, student or if you're working on a project right now at work and it's just really taking a lot out of you, just think about how you can add something different into your routine to get better sleep and, absorb what you need. That's good to know. It's good
Yeah.
self-care.
Yes, of course. Magnesium should be part of your regular self care routine. Absolutely.
That is a great point. Great reminder too, because, we think about we need to drink certain amounts of water every day. You might want to start thinking about how much magnesium you need to consume
Yes, I
throughout your
agree.
week.
I agree. A lot of people, it's so funny because I feel like protein has gotten like this new resurgence and everybody's like, hit your protein goals. And I'm like, hit your magnesium goals,
Right.
So hit them both.
Absolutely. That's a good idea. It's something, to think about when I do my weekly check-in and journaling too. Because, I have like a water goal and I have a clean eating goal. So now I need to think about my magnesium levels. Okay. So, Natalie, what else do listeners and viewers need to know?
At the end of the day, you've got to do what works for you, right? You've got to protect your mental health, protect your physical health. We have to advocate for ourselves when it comes to
Mm,
these things. We can't rely on a 5-minute healthcare appointment that we have every year because not enough conversation
yeah.
happens in those doctors' offices,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And it's not the doctor's fault. They have, so many patients coming through a door on a daily basis. I don't blame them at all, but the system that we're in really doesn't give us more than 5 to 10 minutes with our healthcare practitioner. So we really need to be our own advocates, our own researchers, and really take our health seriously. You shouldn't feel tired and run down. That is it shouldn't be okay. I think oftentimes as moms, as busy people, we're like, oh, no, no big deal. Yeah, I can't sleep, but that's no big deal. I have so much to do. It's not okay. Give yourself that time, give yourself that space to really focus on yourself so that you can be the best version of you.
Agreed. I think we, as moms, put ourselves last and we need to start really putting ourselves first so we can help everybody else in our household out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that whole put your mask on for yourself first before
Yeah.
you take care of everybody else. Okay. So, Natalie, where could people find more information about what you offer if they wanted to work with you or just learn more about magnesium?
Yes, I'm across all social media platforms at Be Rooted In, and our website is also Be Rooted In as well. So, yeah, and I respond to questions. So, if you have any questions, if you hear this and something comes up, send me a message. I'm happy to help you, happy to share resources with you. And we also have lots of great free resources. We've got magnesium cheat sheets that help you determine what form of magnesium to use. We've got all sorts of guides, and I'm not a gatekeeper of information. All of the information we share is always free.
That's amazing. Thank you. And we'll make sure all of that information is in the show notes, and I'll make sure I link all of Natalie's socials in there as well. And then there'll be more replays, for our shorts of this podcast, just as reminders that'll pop up on social media. If you haven't already liked and subscribed on YouTube, please make sure you do that. And check us out on social so you don't miss another episode or information and updates from Natalie as we send those out. And I hope everybody just has an amazing rest of your week. And remember to go slow to go fast. So, Natalie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for what you do to really spread that message of slowing down to everybody.
If you loved this episode of the Go Slow to Go Fast YouTube version, please leave a comment, ask a question, like and subscribe, and share it with somebody you know who could benefit from a little more common care in their daily routine. Ways to get in touch with Natalie or me, it's all in the show notes, so check it out. And until next time, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Go slow to go fast, and thanks for being here.